Joined by Rob Williams, Rob the hockey guy, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive, and its offside vertical. First of all, thank you for switching days with JPAT this week. Appreciate that. And so much talk about the Vancouver Canucks start, Rob, and there were different signposts. Best start in this many games, best start in that many games. Lost 3 of 4. Alas, we're not at the best start anymore.
Yeah, I think I started the best start look backs. I was checking through the kind of the history of the team at kind of like the 6-7 game mark, and they just kept having the best start, and it was kind of a fun ride for a while, almost to the point where I think people got bored by it. Like it was like you'd be like, "This is the best start in franchise history," and that's like, yeah, it still is the best start. That's fine. I can tell you now, after 20 games, this is no longer the best start. So it's close though. This is the tied for the 4th best start in Canucks history.
Which is unbelievable. I mean, like it's a really nice record, but it's not like ungodly. Like it's just 50 over 50 years of this franchise, and like this is near the high watermark. That seems very sad, actually.
The funny thing is when you look back at the history, because I think a lot of people would say, if you were to guess, okay, so what years beat that out? People would immediately say, well, 2010, 2011, right? Best team in franchise history. No, that team started 10-7-3, if you can believe it.
Wow, really?
23 points. So that's a full 4 points behind the present day team. Or then maybe you'd say, hey, maybe it's the 2011, 2012 team, right? That was the other President's Trophy winning team. They had the Stanley Cup hangover. They started 10-9-1. They had 21 points. So a full 6 points back of where the team is at this point. So I don't know if you guys have any. I don't know if you guys want to give any guesses here about who you think it is.
Well, there was that. Was it 05-06, Rob?
05-06, it was close. It doesn't quite crack the list.
How about 14-15? Did Willie's team get off to a good start?
14-15 matched this record right now. So Willie Desjardins' first year with the Canucks matches Rick Tocchet's first full year with the Canucks at 13-6-1. It's hard to believe, right? Because that team kind of was. I mean, there was some fun moments that year, but I don't think it was the euphoria of this season with the Canucks. And I think that just shows how bad they've been for so long, where, that Willie Desjardins team, that was a nice bounce back after the Torts here, but we didn't get, it wasn't like a decade of darkness, essentially. It was like
92, 93.
92-93 was my next
guess. And 02-03.
And 06-07 was my next. I guessed 02-03.
You're so close. So 91-92, so Bure's first full season in Vancouver. So not his rookie year, but his second year. Mm-hmm. That's tied for the best record ever. So they were 13-4-3, so 2 points better than they are presently. Mm-hmm. The 03-04 team. So that was the West Coast Express team. They were 12-4-4, so just 1 point better than the present day team. And if you can believe it, the 74-75 Canucks. So that's the Gary Suitcase Smith led Canucks when they first went to the playoffs and won the Smythe division. They are tied with the 91-92 Canucks with a 13-4-3 record for 29 points.
Amazing. I mean, this team could be right there and still hold it. If they kick a couple of these, like the Canucks have got a lot of wins. 13 wins is great. Their losses, it's a shame that they haven't been able to kick a few of those into the OTL column. If they get a couple single points, if they're 13-4-3 sort of thing, they're back to being amongst the best starts ever, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been good and bad because their wins have mostly come in regulation as well. They haven't been getting a lot of OTL, so they haven't been gifting points to other teams in their wins as well. But you're right. If they, if you can, what do they say, manage your losses, they'd be in an even better situation. But like I said, I mean, they're in a slump right now. Having lost 3 of 4, but it really does. It kind of surprises me just like looking at these stats, because it really does feel like this grand surprise And I know we had a story on it with, when you look at the betting odds at the beginning of the year to make the playoffs, and now the betting odds and probability to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year compared to the probability of making the playoffs now. No team in the NHL has had a bigger jump up than the Vancouver Canucks. So they're the surprise of the NHL.
One of your writers, Noah Strang, wrote about JT Miller this week. What did we learn there, Rob?
Well, it's just looking back at the contract, and there were a lot of critics of Miller's contract, and at the time, rightfully so, and maybe still rightfully so. But certainly, the way he started this season, not only being among the league's leading scorers, which is incredible in its own right, but the way he's playing, like he's now a matchup center, which, when he signed that deal, we weren't sure if he was a center. Remember, I mean, last season he got pushed to the wing because he was just so terrible defensively that Bruce Boudreau couldn't trust him in the middle any longer. And now he's a matchup center. And I mean, that goal he scored the other night, where that power forward move coming to the, bullying his way to the middle and scoring, that's a pretty valuable player. Now, he's signed for 7 years. He's signed for a cap hit of $8 million a year. That's a lot of years. He's on the wrong side of 30 now. The part where I give pause to it is that deal looks very different if he's signing that deal with a good team, a team that could potentially win a Stanley Cup, right? Compared to where I think most people saw them at, which was a team that probably needed to rebuild and probably needed to change things up if they ever want to make a run at the Stanley Cup. Now, a long way to go before we really, have them lifting the Stanley Cup, but you hope to get value in the first half of a deal like that, right? And that you're going to be overspending a little bit on the back half. And I think that if the Canucks are for real, if they can, really put together a winning team in the next few years, I think we definitely are going to view that contract differently.
And lastly, Rob, I can only imagine the shot of glee and excitement that went through the Daily Hive and Offside newsrooms when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle found themselves at Monday's Vancouver Canucks games.
Mhm.
Blake, the Royals are a click industry into and unto
Completely.
themselves. I can only imagine people across the globe, Rob, checking out your stories.
For Daily
on
Hive, it's
Prince
like,
Harry.
guys, it is go time.
It
This
is,
is
yeah.
why we're
All
here.
hands
Let's
on deck.
go.
Nobody
Yes.
rests until the royal couple is back home in bed. We will cover this front to
Better
back.
than election night.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Did you give them election night pizza at the end of all this, Rob?
You guys, you're absolutely right. I actually got tipped off about an hour before puck drop that this was
Did you?
probably coming, but
Ooh.
there was enough uncertainty that I was like, I'm not putting this, because there was some talk that, like, everyone was sworn to secrecy, but there was some talk that if this leaked out, that they could pull the plug on it. Like,
Right.
if it
Whoa.
got too big, that they might not show up. Clearly, they didn't want advanced hoopla for this because it was kept totally secret, and it was a big surprise seeing Harry at the step onto the ice. I was ready for it though, so it did help me in that regard.
Mhm.
I did the thing that the cameras didn't catch before they introduced Harry. He slipped on the little carpet on the ice. Like, he fully had to, like, he was kind of waved his arms to, like, regain his balance. So that would have been something if he'd fallen to the ice.
Could you imagine? International scandal.
Oh my
The
God.
Vancouver Canucks and Canucks Sports and Entertainment would have had some very difficult questions if Prince Harry had slipped and fell.
Oh, it hit head on the dasher or
Can
something
you
like that?
imagine
Can you?
your
Oh.
brand associated with that degree of royal calamity?
Oh my God.
But I love everything about the story, guys. I think I wrote four articles about it. It was just
Just turning up the
tailor-made
sausage.
it was tailor-made for Daily Hive. It was
Right.
perfect.
Seems proportional for
everything from
Rob?
yeah.
How
What's
many
that,
on
sorry?
the game?
We had an article on the game.
What?
But everything from Hurdle and Hughes had to tell them when to drop the puck, to their reaction the reaction watching the goal go in the third period. They showed it on the big screen at Rogers Arena, and seeing them actually be like pumped up to watch the goal. And I'm not a big Royals guy. I'm not a big celebrity guy here, you guys. But to be honest, I said to somebody in the second intermission, I was like, I wonder if they're even still here. They probably have already left, right? They got the photo op, got the Invictus Games shout out, and they probably took off. But no, it looks like they stayed for the full thing. So that was surprising to me in somewhat as well.
And of course, the crowd's appreciation for their appreciation really boils down to the human emotion of they like us.
Yeah, well,
like that's basically
what it was. It was nice to see that they weren't too cool for school, right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
Like they just came and enjoyed themselves, and they looked like they had a couple glasses of wine, and they weren't being uppity in the private box watching the game.
Well, a few things here. Number one, I caught your follow-up story that more than 100 people signed up to volunteer for the Invictus Games because of his appearance. So, hey, good on you. Secondly, Harry has always been the most relatable Royal because he's flawed and he, does act with emotion. It's the difference.
It's on a scale.
I mean, it's the difference between being the spare and being the heir, right? Like Harry can get away with some things that his older brother can. They're, of course, not working Royals anymore. Nope. So there's that as well. So they, as much as you can when you still carry the title and all that, they, retreated to public life. And of course, Rob is absolutely right in terms of the delicate balance they walk between, of course, wanting to attract audience because they do have a media company and not wanting the international paparazzi or those harrowing scenes of crowds in and around their home and whatnot. This is the couple that did the Leave Us Alone publicity tour, you may recall, several months ago.
Yeah, which is an odd thing.
Well, I mean, that is the tightrope they walk. Rob, great stuff. Thanks for this, buddy. We'll catch up next week, Thursday. Promise.
That sounds great.
Finning Canada is your local dealer for cat equipment built to handle work in Western Canada. Visit finning.com for a location nearest you.